Welcome to another episode of Millennial Investing Explained. Here's today's question. How can someone tell if they're on track with their money at their current age now?
There are plenty of benchmarks that exist. So if you want to get yourself real riled up, Google thing you're interested in, benchmark, and see what happens. I think it was about a year ago, it could have even been two, an article about how much you're supposed to saved for retirement, which I should say invested for retirement at different ages, went semi-viral and got people all kinds of worked up, because one of them is that you should have 1x your salary by the age of 30, which a lot of people did not have, do not have, will not have. So that makes people feel some type of way. And that's very understandable, especially if you either had to delay investing for retirement, you didn't have access to do it, you didn't have the bandwidth in your budget to do it. That's why people tend to get upset. I would say take all benchmarks with a grain of salt. You are playing your own game. If you find it motivating, because if you're a really competitive person and you like being like, oh, that person just saved $100,000 by X age, oh, I'm going to go do that too, and it's motivating for you, great. And if it's not, cut out the noise and just focus on what are your actual goals? What do you personally want to achieve? And then start to backwards plan from there.
I mean, I completely agree. And I think what's interesting about the benchmarks, or what's difficult about the benchmarks, is there's sometimes outliers. And so if they're not using a median, you can sometimes be comparing yourself to something that's not realistic and, discourage yourself for no reason. And if you know that you're so far away from that benchmark, I feel like a lot of people are just going to get discouraged and not continue to work for their goals. And not too many episodes ago, just a few episodes ago, we had Doug Boneparth on the show, and he talked about how he works with millennials that make upwards of $600,000 to over millions a year. And, those millennials are in your benchmarks. And so like you said, take it with a grain of salt and just realize that everybody's going at their own speed. And just because you're not necessarily at the benchmarks, or even if you're above the benchmarks, doesn't mean anything in particular.
Yeah, and I would just say too, you do your own goal setting and set a quote unquote realistic goal, and then set a reach goal for yourself, so that even if you don't hit the higher end, you can still hit something. And I personally am a big fan of micro goals, which sounds kind of strange, but if you have a big overarching goal, and I feel like so many people right now, it's like, I want to reach $1 million by X age. So if that's your goal, great. But then niche it down to say, how much each month of this year do I want to be putting away to service that overall larger goal? Or if you have a personal development goal, how many books per year in this genre do I want to read? Or whatever it is, I feel like having those smaller, very achievable goals, so it's sort of like the debt snowball of life, is figuring out then how to do something small. So everyone loves to check things off a list.
I absolutely love that advice. It's exactly how I do my goal setting. That's all for this episode of Millennial Investing Explained. Be sure to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, or subscribe to our YouTube channel to get even more free content.